Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Still Faithful podcast. I am your host and the founder of the Still Faithful Project. Tonight, I am joined by Lieutenant Billy Moseley. Lieutenant William N. Moseley was born in San Diego, California, and was raised in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and Bakersfield, California. He enlisted in the Navy in 2000, reaching the rank of Gunner's Mate, Chief Petty Officer, before earning a commission in 2014 as a Surface Ordnance LDO 616. His enlisted assignments include Naval Security Forces, Bahrain and Guam, SEAL Team 7, Naval Coastal Riverine Group 1, and SEAL Team 1. Following commissioning, Lieutenant Moseley served as the USS Pinckney DDG-91 as the Systems Test Officer STO. During this tour, he fulfilled multiple roles in parallel to his STO duties, such as MCI Coordinator, SRA Coordinator, and Surface Rescue Swimmer Officer. As a department head, Lieutenant Moseley served as the Ammunition Materials Officer at Naval Munitions Command, Pacific Unit, Guam, where he oversaw the largest overseas quick-strike mine maintenance facility, coordinating surface-subsurface munitions on offloads and joint aerial mining missions. Lieutenant Moseley is currently assigned to the USS Bunker Hill, CG-52, as the STO. His deployments include 2005 Habanaya, Iraq, 2007 Al-Assad, Iraq, 2011 Basilan, Philippines, 2013 Zamboanga, Philippines, 2014 Jordan in the UAE, 2017 Gulf of Aden, Red Sea. The following is a letter from R. Davis Yuntz, Esquire, who was Billy Moseley's very competent lawyer when he was being removed or targeted for his refusal of the COVID-19 vaccine. The following is the letter from Mr. Yuntz. May 21st, 2022, for immediate release. On May 20th, 2022, a board composed of the Navy officers found that our client, Lieutenant Billy Moseley, did not commit misconduct by refusing the COVID-19 injection and found unanimously that Lieutenant Moseley should be retained in the United States Navy. Attorney Yuntz represented Lieutenant Moseley at the administrative hearing and successfully argued that the order for military members to receive the experimental COVID-19 injection was not a lawful order. In particular, Attorney Yuntz successfully demonstrated that the military has not made the FDA approval version of the vaccine available to military members. Lieutenant Moseley opposes the vaccine for religious reasons and could have submitted a religious accommodation request. However, when he learned that the Navy and the other services intended to implement a blanket denial policy, he began to prayerfully consider other options. After consulting with legal and medical experts, he became convinced that as an officer he had an obligation to take a stand against the unlawful order and be a voice for thousands of enlisted sailors. Lieutenant Moseley risked his 22-year career and his military retirement because of his faith and his commitment to his oath of office as a military leader. Although this is one case of thousands, and we have many more clients facing prosecution by the military, we are encouraged that the truth was revealed in this board, and we hope this groundbreaking case sends a strong message to the Department of Defense. The point of contact for the release is Attorney R. Davis Yuntz. We are joined now by Lieutenant Billy Moseley. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Still Faithful Project. I'm your host and the founder of the Still Faithful Project, William Robinson. I also go by Rody Rob on my moniker on social media. Today, I'm joined with Billy Moseley to talk about, a lot of stuff. So we'll just get right into it, sir.
Yeah, hey, Rody, thanks for having me on. Again, retired Lieutenant Billy Moseley here, just retired last year after 25 years. But to get right into this is what's hot off the press is about 9 days ago now is the Freedom of Information Act request I submitted about 10 weeks ago requesting all of the COVID-19 vaccines administered by the Department of Defense for calendar year 2025. I'm surprised it actually came back in about 9 to 10 weeks. I fought them for the week and a half prior, all back and forth to pry the information. I'm out of them back and forth. And they eventually came through on that Thursday, 2 Thursdays ago, and gave me all of the data. I was extremely surprised with the history of me and FOIA requests, or most Americans that have been digging into this, and how there's really no freedom of information in this country. It's usually, we know everything's usually heavily redacted, or they push it off to other entities and it just goes from there. You never get what you need. So yeah, it came back and they plainly, in plain language, admitted using the data that they used to forecast in 21, 22, and 23 that over 450,000 COVID injections were administered by the DoD in calendar year 2025. So, and that's not even all of it, because they said if you want the civilian data, they need to reach out to the Office of Budget Management to get that data. So who knows what the real number is? But at a minimum, 450 plus thousand for anybody that's tracking this is not a number to scoff at. And I ran this specifically because all year I have been screaming over and over that they're still administering the shots. I don't care if it's not mandated. The adults are supposed to be in charge. You know this, Rody. The adults are supposed to be in charge, and they're supposed to put an end to this. It doesn't matter who goes and takes a shot or not, or how much they think they're actually for them. We're supposed to protect them. We're supposed to provide that protection if we have that knowledge. And that starts with the adults that are in position removing the shots. I stand by that to this day, and they have not. We've known they have. They've had 13 months to do this, and they've done nothing. They could end it with a stroke of a pen, RFK and Pete Hegseth. Stroke of a pen. At a bare minimum, they could stir things up and start investigations and put a halt to them, which would open the eyes of millions of more people and probably restore some sort of new energy in the entire medical freedom movement, in my opinion. Because I get it, there's a burnout factor with all this too. And I was burnt out too for a long time. It is tiring for 6 years of screaming into the voids and trying to right all the wrongs and lawsuits and FOIA requests and Inspector General reports and everything else we've all done for the last 6 years to just be gaslit. So again, the number is not a small number. These kill shots are still being administered by Pete Hegseth, by his medical professionals, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I've noticed that there hasn't been a whole lot of attention drawn to this. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on to talk about it. Can you tell me some of the...
Correct. Why? And that's another problem. That's why I'm actually that specifically, and the people that do know me right now that are ignoring this personally, that I'm interacting with them, it's they know who I am, and they know how I am with this stuff and how passionate I get. And we know this stuff in detail, in and out, for 6 years now. We've studied it, watched it, lived it. We've seen the carnage firsthand. So they're lighting a new fire in my ass. I'll tell you that. I'm getting beyond furious. And there's about to be, I have all the official email chains now for over there at the DoD, and they're going to get blasted. They're going to get lit up from Lieutenant Bill Mosley, U.S. Navy, retired. They can tap dance around all that one and ignore it. So again, everyone in that entire movement that's been screaming accountability for years has gone absolutely silent on this. And they've seen it. I went ape shit the last 10 days. You've seen it. I've obsessed over it because it is something serious that needs to happen. Yeah, they've all seen it too. I've tagged every one of them. All the ones that scream accountability are deciding to ignore this. So the ball's back in their court.
What are some roadblocks that you've hit as far as trying to get this out, and other than just screaming into the void, and like, what are you seeing on their part? Are they just flat out ignoring you, or what do they have to say in response?
Yeah, some of them are just straight up ignoring it. Let's go straight to the COVID task force.
Right.
And some of the people that are on there, they are on there. They were put back in office. They were pulled back in on active duty. Some of them were already there. Some of them brought back in active duty and purposely put back on the team to restore trust and accountability. It's not just about reinstatement. They're supposed to restore it. They've said it from day one. They're going to restore trust. That's why they created a COVID task force, and they're ignoring it. So if they're ignoring it and they don't want to speak up on it, then where are we at? Where are we at as a whole for anybody that's going to listen to this? The question goes out that I've already been plugging out to everybody else. If they can't even say anything about this, about the kill shots, what put us in this situation in the first place, that destroyed millions of lives, and they know this. They know exactly what I'm saying. So if they won't speak up, then what? Where are we at? And they want to ignore me, knowing my stance on this and what I did for the last 5 years. And that's not just me being, I did it all and everything. I understand what everyone did across every platform and every domain. And it was definitely a joint effort to get where we were. And one of the emails I just sent out last week as well with that, I put out kind of like another hoo-yah letter to motivate the medical freedom movement again, because I've been on email chains with them for a long time. So it was 73 people in that distro that I sent a very long message out. And one of my key points in there was the military led the charge in 22 and 23, driving public opinion was shutting down the mandates. They can easily do it right now with this information. While this information is hot, you have the court of public opinion drive it. They're not doing it. They're not biting. They don't want it.
It makes
but
me
they'll
wonder
continue
why.
to scream about accountability. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, Rody. You probably know this too, but it's what I've been screaming the last year. It's identity politics. It's idols. They won't set aside their idols. They have idols and they've conformed to identity politics, which is some sort of weird mind rot in this nation. And it doesn't matter. You pick a side on this equation. We watched it during the whole Biden year. It was the same thing. People will defend him to the death, no matter how ridiculous and insane, illegal, and criminal things were. And now we're watching that on the other side, per se, in a different way. So some of these people, or most of them, some of them are running for office, so they can't speak up against anybody in MAGA, and because they want that political seat. Some of them are in positions now that they fought to get back in, and they won't speak up, even though they've been speaking up prior to this, because they would definitely be screaming from the rooftops if this was Biden or Austin. They all would. Guarantee it. I'll bet a paycheck on it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, one
Agreed.
thing I've noticed is, and this might be because I come from the enlisted side of the house. So my perspective looking into things like the COVID task force is it's full of officers, and that could be a good or a bad thing, however you look at it. But what I've seen happen is cliques seem to prop up everywhere, even where they shouldn't be. And then you got gatekeepers where there shouldn't be, in positions where they said that they would be transparent. Things get held from, you know, some of us that have been paying attention to this. It's like, okay, well, why couldn't you just tell us that? It doesn't make any sense why we had to wait until now to find out. Just certain things, you know, I don't have any specific examples off the top of my head, but I have seen
I have thousands.
Yeah.
I have I know exactly what
you're
you're talking about. I track everyone's patterns. I've seen it now for far too long. And for the enlisted side, I'm right there with you. I did my first 15 years of my 25 years, I was enlisted.
Yeah.
I crossed over as senior enlisted into an officer program. And you do have a prior enlisted Mustang on that task force, by the way, Captain Mark Bashaw. I believe he did 16 or 17 years as enlisted. He was a senior enlisted guy before he crossed over too. So they're on there, but I get the point. This is the problem. It's a lot of senior officers that became the face over the last 2 years to drive public opinion. They started gatekeeping and locking down any external opinions coming in. This is why they shut down Brad Miller as well, and they wouldn't let him in the meeting 6 months ago before they started this task force. And the reason that they put out is because his opinion on Trump and Hegseth. And I mean, if anybody that should have been in the meeting, Brad Miller should have been in there. But this is what it is. It's a political charade now. So because it become a political charade, truth and justice has gone out the window. And yeah, the gatekeepers, the know-it-alls, the pride, the ego, and the identity politics is driving all of that.
Yeah. So has there been any sort of outside support, or because you mentioned some of the individuals that are running for office? I know they can't say one way or another, but excluding them, like, is there any outside force or support that you've been able to draw up with any of this? Like, what does the public think generally when they hear that this is still being administered?
So, for example, I generated that long email there's a lot of heavy hitters in there in that email that have been around for a long time. The only response, I got some response from a couple, a couple of MDs that have been in this fight. They don't have huge platforms. The only one that's been responding constantly is Doc Jane Ruby. She's the only one coming back and responding, but she's on the same page as we are. Everything she already speaks is already the truth. Everything from the complicity from Trump, Biden, Operation Warp Speed, where you were at in RFK, the bioweapons, the genocide. She speaks in the same terms, and I agree with every word of it. Everything that she says. It's because that's what it all is. And they're all complicit. So any other outside support of that? No, she said I can come on her show whenever the other day too, and we can talk the same, which I'm probably going to reach out to her. It's just, so far, it's just you and Doc Jane Ruby. There may be something with New York Times, that another guy that was huge in this movement with Derek Wynn, who had another big win a couple years ago as well, on top of us with letters. They're deeming it unlawful, and they fixed his record. He went out to them a few days ago or a week ago with his story and the stuff he's done inside Texas and the military's wins, and he added on my FOIA request to my story. So I did leave a message with New York Times guys yesterday, but they didn't get back with me yet. So we'll see how far they want to go with it. Because, you know how it is. The guy on the ground might be interested in the story and believe it, but once it gets to the editor, we don't know yet. So there may be something there. But then again, it is still the New York Times.
Absolutely.
They were complicit in this shit for years during the COVID era.
Yeah.
So comes out from them.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's about it now. Like I said, I have connections to everybody. They all see it. I know who all these people are. I know all of them. So they have chosen to ignore this for identity politics is really the front of it, the base of it. And there's other nuances and gray areas, obviously, but this was the chance to drive something one more time. Maybe
Yeah.
it still is. I'm not writing it off yet because it's still only been about 10 days, but 9 days since I put it out publicly. And then it really didn't kick off until the weekend. There's one more person I did get support from Lieutenant Colonel Teresa Long. We had some conversations. She's been taking the report. She said she's sending some reports up, and she has put out some public statements. And as far as officers go, even within the active duty or retired, I believe, unless I missed something, she's the only one who has put out public statements tagging that specifically, with me tagging the COVID task force. So far, she is the only active duty officer that I've seen particularly call out this evil.
Yeah.
Why?
I've seen it too on Twitter or X now. I've seen her posts. There's as far as officers go, I think yeah, she may be the only one I can think of either, which is a real testament to her and her character, I think. I'm trying to think of where to go with this. What are some of the things they could? I know they could flip a switch tomorrow and fix this. The administration as a whole. What are some things and or some ways you think that people on the COVID task force or anybody that has any sort of platform or influence over this could do right now?
Yeah, so I'm not going to name a name who I had this conversation with recently, but it's someone who has direct ties inside the Pentagon right now and direct ties to Pete Hegseth and RFK. And the exact verbiage I got was, I could, quote unquote, I could drop a pile of dead bodies in front of them and they would not care. They only care about public opinion. And this is what we've known for years with a lot of the politicians. They don't do the right thing until they're pressured immensely. And so that algorithm flips over against them in enough where they say, okay, now I got to make a statement. Now I got to write something. Now I have to listen to these people. It's sad that the whole world, this country has come to that, but they're on the same boat. And she also extended that to Tata as well, the undersecretary. So there is, and I agree 100%, public opinion. That's where it needs to be driven. I said there's a small tactical window here right now with this information where if they're put on the chopping block again publicly from all the people that have been screaming about accountability, they may be forced. I can't guarantee it, but they may be forced to publicly now say something. They may be publicly forced to get put into a meeting and then discuss what the F is going on. I don't know. I'm just putting out possibility. It's not guaranteed, but we know how these guys operate. But if I'm hearing that Hegseth and Tata and RFK only care about public opinion, which is obvious after the last 13 months, then it's no different than the previous administration. This is just a continuation of criminal activity across every domain right now in this country, because it's the same thing.
Mob rule, of course, as we've
Correct.
seen, just like you said, the past 13 months. It's right in front of us.
So public opinion is the answer to drive it, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah.
Driving the public opinion across the platforms, getting people to maybe pick this up. Maybe everyone hasn't seen it yet. I don't mean just some of the people that have been on the, COVID accountability front for the last few years. There could be other entities out there that are bigger to try to pick this up that they're just not answering yet or haven't seen it. I don't know. Or maybe they're all burnt out and they don't care anymore. Or maybe it's not hot enough because public opinion is not driving it. But there are other journalists out there that have been backing us up, like J.M. Phelps. He's seen this. He won't touch it because of the same thing. They won't dare call out Pete or Trump. And this is on their watch. These facts that I'm saying, you already know, Rhodey, they're just undeniable facts. This is not Biden or Austin anymore. It's
so stupid to me because if they did the right thing, it would just drive public opinion in their favor. And that's the case with all of these things.
I know, it's not.
All they have to do is their job. That's it.
Agree. And the task force job right now is that. And that's why you saw me post earlier. I said, was there a new oath of office administered under Trump and Pete? Did I miss something? Because I'm pretty sure it's the same exact oath of office that I signed 10 years ago as an officer that you all signed today. It didn't change. So what's the difference? What is the difference? They won't answer me. Of course they won't. But
the difference is
there
now
is no
it's
difference.
hard. Yeah, now it's hard.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be easier than ever, right? Because the adults are supposed to be in charge.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you, Rhodey. It's mind-boggling. It is frustrating because this is why we can't get any ground in this country, because of these the political charades and putting on the blinders because of the person you might like now is doing something criminal, but you don't want to believe it. I don't understand it because To me, what's wrong is wrong. What's evil is evil. I could care less who's
Yeah.
doing it at this point.
Yeah.
And I know you're on the same
Absolutely.
page. Now, there are many others. There are many others. And these guys in the task force, too, they can take what I'm saying wrong all day, but I'm going to call them out for doing their jobs. No different than if I had a uniform right now with Lieutenant Billy Mosley standing there. When I had people that not do their jobs, you got to put boots in asses because it's time to do the job because we have an operation to do. We have a combat operation, a high risk training operation, etc. So this is no different.
Yeah.
They signed up to do this job. They're in the hot seat now. They're the public servant. It's their time to do the job. They can get mad at me. They can stay mad at me for the rest of their lives. I don't care. Just do your job.
Well, they have no right to because they're the ones that said they wanted the job. Now you're in the seat. Now you're in the seat. You said you wanted it. Let's go. I mean, that's it. There's no excuse, you know. I mean, there may be that I don't know, but I don't think that there's any excuse for this to continue. You know, that brings me to I want to break down a little bit of the data you FOIA requested. So could you elaborate a little bit? We touched on it at the beginning. Could you break it down a little bit for people that may not completely be aware what we're even talking about right now?
Correct. So again, the Freedom of Information Act request was submitted specifically to the Defense Health Agency. They're the one that tracks everything through all the medical record or Department of Defense medical records, and they even put all of the details in there in the codes they ran, which they can read that later if you want to post that again. But the request was specifically for the number of COVID-19 vaccines administered during calendar year 2025. And then if you can read the top of the FOIA, I continued on and put a little more details in there. So they had to give me the specific numbers. I added the link on how they used to actually publicly promote it so they can't kind of tap dance around the FOIA. And I just kind of steered them in specifically. They ended up giving me all the numbers from since day one. It rolled out at the end of 2020, which is 11 million to this day total that they've administered in the DoD. They also broke it down by branch for me. And then when you look at just the active duty guys in the numbers, the bigger branches like Army, Navy were around 5,000, which, yeah, I've heard people say, well, it's not very much anymore. Well, it's not, but that's not the point of this. And then there's another category which says other. So this is where I can't, right? I tried to get the other out of them and to explain it. I sent multiple emails over the last week. But if you look at the other and you just put yourself inside of a military treatment facility, who has access to military treatment facilities, right? Retirees, dependents. So the other is obviously some VA extension for anybody that's retired, disabled retirement, or any outreach that they've have some extension or tie to the VA still for whatever reason they left the military, as well as dependents. No one else has access to these military treatment facilities. And that was specifically my request. Only administered on military bases by the DoD. This is not civilian. This is not CVS. This is not a regular hospital where I'm looking at in Colorado Springs or San Diego that you go down to your local clinic. This is only on base on military treatment facilities that they administered these shots. So again, that's why 460,000 is a huge number still. But how many of those dependents were pregnant mothers? How many children are still being injected by these military, civilian, and medical officers, right? They're administering the shot, as well as enlisted medical professionals, but they're administering it under their watch, right? Go back up the chain. Let's say HM3 sitting over at Balboa Naval Medical Center injects the COVID vaccine into a pregnant mother. They walk out. We don't know the potential problem that's going to come from that, but we know how poisonous they are. But go up the chain. They have a senior enlisted that run it there. They have medical officers. They have commanding officers. Those commanding officers report up to BUMED. BUMED reports up through DHA. DHA up to Pete Hegseth. It's on his watch. It doesn't get any clearer than that. Austin's not in office anymore. He has no power. So this is Hegseth. He had 13 months. So that's the data broken down by branch. Not huge numbers, but thousands. It doesn't really matter. They're still administering it. And the other has easily bumped it up, is where it bumped it up by the hundreds of thousands. They're not lying on these numbers. These are coming right out of military medical records, right out of all their systems. Nobody can say that it's lying.
Is Hegseth in a bubble, or is he seeing these numbers every day? Is there some sort of bottleneck in which he's not seeing this, or somebody on his team isn't, whoever the appropriate people aren't sharing this information, or is it literally just he's seeing it and focused on other things because public opinion isn't, this isn't
I'll
big
never
enough
be
for
able to
him?
say for sure. I can't say
Yeah.
for sure, but I mean, we can, right? I mean, let's think of what I know after 25 years in the military, his last
Yeah.
few years of, I mean, he's sitting in that position. He has people that could be briefing this to him right now, like the task force. Does he get medical briefings from time to time on what's happening where and where? I'm sure he does. I'm sure he sits through a death by PowerPoint for 3 hours and is burnt out and probably doesn't really care about the numbers, or maybe it gets brushed over. I don't know to what level these numbers make it to him. No idea. Is he in a bubble? Possibly. But you see what's all over his Twitter feeds. He has time to post, fuck around, find out 1,000 times a week like an immature teenager. He has time to respond to everybody in their PT challenges. I mean, he sure has time for all that. He has plenty of time to engage on Twitter and all the political charades that are going on. He has time to post F around, FAFO on boats being blown up in Southcom, or these endless criminal wars that are going on. So he had no problem putting the words unlawful in a letter 8-9 months ago. Well, if it was so unlawful, why are you promoting all the officers that were complicit in all of this?
Yeah.
One of them is
All
now
the
the chief
senior
naval of
enlisted,
operations.
too.
Senior enlisted too, correct? All of them. All
Yeah.
the senior enlisted have advanced, unless they retired. But most of them, like I said, Admiral Daryl Cottle was at the N1 during the COVID era throughout the Navy, 22, 23, and 21. He was one of the biggest pushers of the whole thing. Video after video, letter after letter, denying all the policies. He sat at N1. He was up there. They promoted him last year to Chief of Naval of Operations.
Mm-hmm.
Not
That's what happened.
not Biden, not Austin. Trump and Hegseth did.
Yep.
I don't know why that stuff falls on deaf ears. It's what it is. The memos are there. It's all on the DOD websites. They are now in those positions. We know what they did before, but now we don't call them out. I don't understand it. I really don't.
People are too busy feathering their own nests, or it's like you said, it's the identity stuff. It's, oh, they're on my team, so I can't say anything against them. And I hate that. That's now you're just a rubber stamp. Whether you're in a political office or you're a public servant in the DOD or otherwise, like now you're just a rubber stamp. I mean, I knew they were trying to. They said that they wanted tankers, but they trained us to be robots, and it's evident in all sectors. And this is just proof of it because I see nobody posting as much as you were screaming about this. I mean, the implementation and mandate of the vaccines was unlawful to begin with, and that's been admitted to. And then the continued use of it after we have just endless troves of evidence that these things are causing things like myocarditis and just fucking killing people. And they're
Mass
just
murder.
giving them out to
They know
pregnant
that.
women and whoever. Just
Correct.
whoever.
Everyone on the task force knows that they're murder shots. They know
Yeah.
it. They're smart enough. They were in this fight for years. They watched the carnage too. And a lot of that was within our own family and friends and neighbors. And I still have family. They still have family that's suffering from this, that's still hanging on to life for the ones that did hang on. Everyone knows somebody that lost somebody from this. So ignoring the fact that these kill shots are still being pumped out. And that's why I made that other post again, to come back on the fact that they're still using ingredients, if we want to break it down, that aren't even approved for human use. Not one 3-letter agency that I pushed that out to for years, including running an IG, an Inspector General complaint against the DHA for allowing unapproved ingredients in the vaccines per the safety data sheet from OSHA. And that's why I reposted that to them with the updated, because what were all the dates that I highlighted on there? 2025 for June, when they created the new Pfizer formula. You go right on the FDA fact sheet, you look in the ingredients, you pull up the PEG 2000, which the trade name is ALC0159. You go right to Cayman Chemical, where they speak in plain language that they're using to make LMP mRNA vaccines, and stamped out all over the safety data sheet. It says not for human or veterinary or therapeutic use. Research use only. And the most recent safety data sheet on there was October 2025, the revision date. Still today, still in place. And if anybody knows it's been in maintenance, and that's one of my specialties as an officer, is not only tactical action officer, integrated air missile defense, it's also running the maintenance for all these major weapon systems. And anything to do with maintenance, guess what you use? Safety data sheets for everything you touch. There is a maintenance requirement card that tells you everything you're supposed to do and references all the safety data sheets for all the chemicals and compounds and tools you're using, so you're keeping the sailor safe. They're supposed to follow the protocols. So this is a safety data sheet that's been pumped out. It even has the words OSHA on it, and ignored. All three-letter agencies, not one of them, not one doctor in San Diego inside the military. I went nuts on that one for years. And you actually have another doc, Sam Sigaloff, who went nuts on that for years too. Very detailed on that. And in my IG against the DHA, I referenced him and another doc's 40-something pages that they broke down on how that was the bioweapon, the lipid nanoparticle, and how these ingredients are still not approved for human use. So again, bioweapon, posted it on there, illegal activity, to the COVID task force, ignored. There's no excuse for this, because if they even want to come back and say that, oh, I'm using Twitter or this isn't official, I'm going to call bullshit real quick, because they use it all day, every day to scream about jacked up BCMR paperwork or reinstatement paperwork. We even have Tata and Pete that have responded directly to them. We're working on this. We'll get it fixed right away for paperwork, for reinstatement. But I give them again, and these guys know. These guys on the task force know exactly what I'm saying. Here's updated evidence of illegal, toxic, deadly activity happening inside the DoD at the medical facilities administered by Pete's officers and enlisted. Silence. It's asinine.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I know. This stuff fires me, because like we lived it for years, and I getting gaslit like this again is just lighting a new fire in my ass, man. It really is. Like, we've all been gaslit and railroaded and just for 6 years now. And now this is gonna do this to me when I put that in and got that information out, and it's gonna be denied. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
This is their chance to potentially drive change nationwide. Nationwide. We know if the military leads charge on that, many other institutions would follow suit. It may stir a lot of shit up, but who cares? Who cares? We're talking
They're too
about
afraid. They can't make any decision without their JAG lawyers.
correct.
Obviously.
Yeah, there's a lot of politics and sea lawyer bullshit that's going on and all that
Yeah.
that happens.
Well, we
with
know
all that.
how ideologically captured the JAG Corps is now, thanks to Sam Shoemate, and how the DEI initiative just completely and totally tore that whole sector apart. And now you can't even trust your damn lawyers. That's why I think I look at somebody like Chu Cao, and I hope I'm saying his name right, the Undersecretary of the Navy. And I think, okay, he seems genuine. He seems like, yeah, this
Oh,
is a problem.
Tata, Secretary Tata.
No, not Secretary Tata, the Undersecretary of the Navy. The
I know what you're talking about. Got it.
yeah, his parents escaped South Vietnam. I can't ever say his name right, or I think I'm messing it up. But he seems genuine to me as far as he wants to right wrongs and make amends. But I look at somebody like that and I think, no, well, you're in a bubble. You're not even saying the right numbers. I mean, I have yet to get my apology letter. I know they're not looking at me because of how they categorize different people that were kicked out. I mean, only 8,700 were kicked out officially for refusing the vaccine mandate. Everybody else, there was other reasons. There was that they AWOL'd them in the National Guard or whatever, they pattern of misconduct like I was. So he's not even getting the right numbers. So he's looking at those same lawyers and he doesn't even know that they're giving him whatever they want. I mean, that's where the bottleneck is. It just makes me wonder if that's happening to all of them, and if so, like how can they not see it? Is it that?
It is in a lot of ways. You're correct. They're just using the political numbers, the mainstream numbers that have been briefed. They have it on some letterhead on documents. So they're only going to stick to that. And their JAGs are just going to create it, right? It's that self-licking ice cream cone. And I know this personally for years as an officer, sitting in meeting after meeting all these years. But coming back from being senior enlisted and going to these officer worlds and listening to some of these guys, how they just run in circles and regurgitate shit, someone in there, that means the people in these meetings are not speaking up. They're not saying the reality, because a lot of the times, just like JOs, right? My example. So I'm a Mustang, a limited duty officer in the Navy. When you're on a ship, my job as the systems test officer, right? Whether it's tactical or technical with the maintenance side, what the captains look for in the Mustangs on the ship, on most of them, there's only 4, maybe 5, is the truth. Because they know they're not going to get it out of their junior department heads and their JOs. They're not going to get the full story. Not only because they might not know it, because they're scared. They see that silver leaf on their collar, right? They see that 05 or that 06 at the cat, and it's a commanding officer of a ship. They're scared. They're nervous when they get around them. So they're not going to spit and tell them the whole truth. Never. They never do. So I'm usually the same age group as these guys. So that's why they look to the Mustangs for the reality. And once, before you know it, you become the trusted agent. And before you know it, the captain's like, hey, Bill, I need 5 minutes. Tell me everything that's going on the ship. What is going on? What do I need to know? And I give them the reality from the lowest deck plates to all the drama to what's not happening to where it's happening. And it's not so much about diming people out. It's like, I just need to know how to fix this. How do we fix it, Bill? Who do I need to go after? Who do you need to go? How do I back you up to go make all of this work? And that's kind of what the conversations were. And then when you're on deployment in the Middle East, those become every day. How do I do this? Who's doing what? And you give them the reality, and they're going to love you for it. And that's not happening at the Pentagon. You guarantee it to some level. I can't speak for everyone, but that's what your point, right? When they sit in there with these undersecretaries, they're all going to sit there quietly. They're going to brief what they're told. The brief's been chopped 17 times by the time it gets in the slide, the master, commander's update brief slide, and then it goes up on the wall, and they're all sitting in there quietly waiting their turn, and they brief their little section and they move on because they just want out of the brief. That's most of the military briefings. You know that, unless you're getting into higher level combat operations and there's more time and everyone's kind of bought in. But when it's just general overview, give me an update of N1, N2, S3, S4, right? Which is what they're doing. They're just getting broad, strokes, numbers here. Here's a program here. We started this. We're almost here with this. Here's the red. Here's what's not working. It never really goes past that at his level, at those undersecretaries. And they're just looking for the big highlights because they have so much shit to track. So, but there's someone there not hammering it down. And even if they don't want to listen to the meeting, they need to be, sir, I need to get on your calendar. I have something extremely important, and we're going to talk. I need an hour. I need 30 minutes. I need 2 hours. With this stuff, maybe it's happening. I'm not going to say it's not, but it's just back to your point. It's normal military meetings, a lot of glossed over shit, a lot of people not wanting to speak up because they're scared to speak up or they don't know how to speak up. So it's a lot of it. It's everything.
Well, that just goes back to the task force and the, licking you're giving them today in this episode, I think is well deserved in the sense that they should be that force driving that. Just like you've been screaming about all over social media and rightfully so. These are that's your target audience, and they're supposed to take that and drive that where it needs to go. And if they aren't doing that, okay, well then at least tell us what's up. Yeah, I mean, stop keeping that information. Like, start talking to us. And even if they don't want to talk to somebody like me, that's fine. I'm enlisted scum. I get it. They have you. They have plenty of other, maybe more savory individuals that or that they can stomach at least to share that information with. There has to be an outlet for it, and to think otherwise, I think, is arrogant, and they're not doing their job. From if perception is reality, and I always hated that idea, it looks like they're not doing their job. So
Correct. I mean, I don't know, you probably heard it, being active duty, especially anything that's operational. How many times did you probably hear, do your fucking job? Like, that was the norm in all the commands I've been at in the Navy. I have a very highly operational background. It's
Yeah.
really that simple. I used to write it in big bold letters on the whiteboard to my sailors when I'd come in. Today, you're going to do your fucking jobs. Like,
Yeah. Because
right?
it's
And
not
then,
about you, it's about the mission. And if you signed up for it, then guess what? You're the guy. Nobody's coming to save you. Like you raised your hand and said you wanted to do this. And if you can't foot the bill,
100%.
then get out of the way and let somebody else do it. If that's the case, it is literally that simple. If it's too much, resign and go home. I salute you for your efforts. Thank you for clearing the way for somebody that might be able to do a better job, you know, and I wouldn't
There
fault
will
him
never
for
be
it. I really
accountability
wouldn't.
until he's, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I wouldn't fault him for it. I really wouldn't. But that was it.
No, I
That.
wouldn't either. I know. Just do it. They, like you said, I'm going to keep beating the drum. They were put in that position. They raised their hand to come back and right the wrongs. So at a bare minimum, they could say, hey, Bill, I see this. We'll route it up. We'll do something. And I got that from Lieutenant Colonel Teresa Long. So I'm not saying it didn't happen, but the amount of politics going on there and stonewalling, who knows how far that's going to go, or if it
Yeah.
even matters. I don't know. I'm not saying she doesn't have the ability to do it, but you get my point.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
for the rest of
Yeah.
them on the other side of that on the task force, because she's not on that COVID task force. She's on the Pentagon for other reasons, but similar reasons. Um, but that specific task force has been very vocal about reinstatement and restoration and building truth and accountability and all the other buzzwords. Going silent on this it's just unbelievably ridiculous and just mind-boggling. At a bare minimum, hey Bill, we got this. Give me a week. I'm going to run something. We're going to make some change. Thank you. Nope. I don't care if they don't like the way I go about it. And that's always been an issue with me because I'm very blunt. I don't care though. They can tap dance around what I'm saying all I want because what I'm saying is the reality. It's
Yeah,
a
you are
fact.
correct.
They can beat around the bush all they want. I don't care. If
Yeah.
they don't like my tone, if they don't like the way I carry myself, or if I said a few F-bombs and get pissed off, then get over it. We're all in the military. Get over it.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping that this episode, once it comes out, I'm hoping to fast track the editing. Everything else is on hold so I can have it out hopefully, next week, knock on wood. Um Hopefully this can be something that kind of drives that a little bit, or at least lights a little bit of a fire that there's people like us talking about this specific issue in this format, and it will continue that way until it's addressed. I mean, I'm gonna blast this everywhere once it's out, and everywhere I go from here on out until this is addressed, I'm going to bring this up. Um,
And you know
Minus
what's good
the.
about that, buddy? That not only is that amazing, and I appreciate it, but people like, and many others too out there that have been fighting this, but we're not doing this for clicks and likes and money
Right.
or anything. Doing it because it's the right thing to do. That's
Yeah,
it.
I don't,
That's
I
it.
don't make a dime from
Literally
this.
where my heart's at and your heart's at as well. Many others too. And I'm not dismissing the task force and where their heart lies too. I understand. I know some of them very well personally for a very long time, but that's it. We're not doing this for check marks, clicks, likes, money, political positions. It's because we know the wrongs that need to be righted and what could potentially follow if this were to topple inside the military. The amount that could drive the accountability. Sitting back and reinstating a couple of dozen people over the next year or two there's no accountability coming from that.
Yeah.
We just had a Marine Corps lieutenant last week that got charged with an Article 133 and Article 92 for the flu vaccine. I've been texting him personally because he's at Camp Pendleton. He lives 20 minutes north of me in San Diego, and they ruled against him. There's supposedly some admin errors that happen in the legal side of it that they're working, but the point is, they ruled to kick him out, to discharge a 13-year Marine Corps officer who's married with 2 children. So most of these people that are being reinstated coming back in that I've been talking to, they're not going to take any other vaccine. So they're coming right back into the death cult and they're going to say no to the next vaccine. And it's a coin toss. You know that. They may get the right CO that may respect their religious accommodation, but if they're operational, They can just circumvent that, especially with the officers say, well, you're now not worldwide deployable. You're not fully medically ready. You're not an all up round. So they use other admin ways to kick them out. And it still skirts around the religious accommodation. They obviously don't care.
Yeah.
Look what just happened with the Marine Corps officer. And there's many others cases going on right now with that just happened in the last year too. So it has to be this. This has to happen. If they were to put out a letter to say we're halting the shots because of XYZ, I believe there is something there that could topple the next domino. We're not 100% sure, but I actually feel something for once with this. I'm not the type of guy that buys into the hope and feels it just because of the last few years and I see things where they're headed, but I felt something here. That's why I've lit a fire in my own ass for this. Because that's insane.
It's a worthy cause, absolutely, and it needs to be addressed. Like this isn't all I see around from this administration, from the top to bottom, is kicking the can down the road because they know they really don't have to deal with it until 28. They're screaming about the midterms, and we all know that they're going to lose the midterms. Whether that's by a big amount or a little amount, they're going to lose the midterms. And then what's it going to look like? It's all litigation and it's all impeachments, and they haven't done anything to stop that. They could literally just do their jobs.
Anyway, can't be done by the next administration.
Yeah. And then what do you think is going to happen with all this great success we've had with the COVID task force and any of the rulings on the COVID anything? All that gets circumvented and undone.
They're going to get the boot immediately.
Yeah.
Correct. They're going to get a boot. They're just going to be, you're done, shut it down. You got 30 days, get out of my face.
Yeah.
If the next administration flips again. 100%. We already know this because nothing that's been done has been set in stone. It's been nothing but EOs, which we know are not law, and just mouth running for 14 months now.
Yeah.
Correct.
And I'm not looking to make any enemies, or I'm not talking about specific people. There is a mission. The individuals involved and their egos don't matter. It's this mission is what matters, and that's why we're stressing this so hard. If this applies to you, take your ego out of it and think, hey, this is a real fucking issue and we need to address it. And if you have the ability to, then maybe get on that. Maybe do that. Don't get in your feels. Just take this for what it is and use it. Lieutenant Moseley, thank you so much for being here. Could you point everybody to, your social media and where they could find this abundant information?
Correct. On Twitter, I'm just at Billy Moseley 88. That's it. Real simple, very low profile. Don't have a big following, but that's where I keep dropping this stuff, and I'm going to keep hammering it.
Wonderful. Well, we'll blast it everywhere on our platforms too, or on some of the other apps, and we'll make sure that this gets out to the ability or to the degree that we have the ability to, change anything. But again, thank you, sir, for coming on and discussing this with us. I think it's invaluable information.
Appreciate it. Same.